Everybody else, they're filler. They're organizational guys. And so that's all that matters. You know, if Tanner Mollendijk was on this team, if Matthew Wood was on this team, that might be a different discussion. But they're not. And so the guys that need to be evaluated are the guys that need to play. Neil says Askarov doesn't deserve to play after those 2 games. Huh? Doesn't deserve to play? What is this? Neil says, did you see him in the first 2 games against the Texas series? He got killed. Askarov will get back into the game against Grand Rapids, and Carl Taylor is trying to win in the playoffs, not cater to the Preds or Askarov. Again, this idea, Carl Taylor is trying to win in the playoffs and not cater to the Preds or Askarov. Can I ask you a question? Ian, a serious question.
Okay.
Who pays Carl Taylor's salary?
Milwaukee.
You think the owner of the Milwaukee Admirals pays the coach of the Milwaukee Admirals?
I mean, it's either that or it comes from the Preds.
It's the Predators. Like the Sounds don't pay anybody who plays for the Sounds. They don't pay them. They don't pay the coaches. They don't pay any of them. The Brewers pay them. The people the Sounds pay Jeff Him. That's who the Sounds pay. And I love Jeff. And he knows that. But that's who they pay. Everybody else, those guys are Brewers employees. Carl Taylor is a Predators employee. His job is to do what's best for the Predators. So when you say Carl Taylor's trying to win in the playoffs and not cater to the Predators, that goes back to the idea that I had that started this whole thing, which is, am I the only person on this planet that thinks that it is the job of the minor league coach to develop players for the major leagues, and it is the job of the major league coach to win? Like tonight, it's the job of the Edmonton Oilers coach to win. If that means sitting Connor McDavid, which you know they're not going to do because that would be stupid. But again, just as a hypothetical, if that means sitting Connor McDavid, then he should do it. If that gives them the best chance to win. Because it's the major leagues. The minor leagues don't operate like that. Again, if Prince Fielder is on the Sounds like he was in 2005, and he's going through a hitting slump, you don't sit there and say, okay, well, we need to give Prince some time off. We need to give Prince a couple ABs off. No.
Not in the regular season.
No.
They don't do that in the regular season.
The postseason.
An elimination
do you know that
game?
In baseball, they don't even, and the Predators did this too. They took Parsonen up, for the playoffs when he wasn't playing. They took him up there just in case. So they don't give a rat's ass about Milwaukee. But in baseball, now the rosters don't expand as much anymore, and I don't even know what the deal with the AAA playoffs are, because it used to be that the AAA season was over on Labor Day, and then they'd have the playoffs in September, and now the AAA season goes all the way through the course of the year. So I don't know when they play the AAA playoffs, or I don't even know if they have AAA playoffs, honestly.
I don't know if they have much.
But, I mean, once those rosters used to expand, you were getting called up. It didn't matter if you were 20 games above first. Call them up. Big leagues. We don't give a rat's ass what happens in the minor leagues. Come on now. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Here on our program, we will get to some of the more of the phones. 615-737-1025 here on the program. Plus, I saw a Titans trade today that was proposed on ESPN that I'm still trying to get my head around. We'll get to that coming up next here on Stillman and Company. Let's talk Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. Have you ever had a contractor come to your home and it take forever and you feel like you wasted your entire day? When you call Hiller, you don't have to camp out all day waiting. Be a happy camper this month with 0% interest financing for 24 months on select HVAC systems, generators, and tankless water heaters. That's right. Or take advantage of Hiller's $99 drain cleaning special. Take care of your home systems before the peak summer temperatures hit. Visit happyhiller.com today for details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today.
As far as Traylon's role, he's going to play everything. We've told him that from the beginning. He's going to play inside, he's going to play outside, and he's going to carve out a role for himself. And I had him come up today and do the break after practice because his work that he's put in has been really impressive. Just to give you guys some context, Tuesdays are our harder days of our 4-day work week. It's a really heavy day, and so the load on the players is high. And what I mean by that is both acceleration, max speeds, and yardage. And so Treylon, I think, ran 3,591 yards on Tuesday, and then hit our top speed and team-leading top speed at 22.6 miles an hour in practice. So super impressive workload and performance. And so he's had a really good offseason. I'm excited about what he can bring for us. I meant when I said that the other day that I think he's going to have a role to play.
There you go. That was Brian Callahan last week talking about Treylon Burks. What's funny is the Titans signed Tyler Boyd, and everyone's like, oh, that's bad for Treylon Burks. Then Brian Callahan gets up there and says that, and everyone's like, oh, they've got a plan for Treylon Burks. I'm like, really? You guys are won over that easy? Like you went from, I guess they don't believe in Burks because their actions say they don't believe in Burks to, oh, no. No, Brian Callahan, he says that he ran 3,000 yards. So those puffy cheeks are just puffy cheeks, I guess. I don't know. So I'm not a big Treylon Burks guy. Again, I don't really have a lot invested in Burks emotionally anymore. I think he's a bust, and we'll see. He's got talent, but never stays healthy. It is what it is. But he's on the team. Maybe he could be like Chris Sanders. Bunch of guys get hurt, goes in the lineup, shows, oh, wait a minute, he actually is good. Again, the way Chris Sanders did in 2000. Derek Mason, again, inactive the first 2 games in 99. Derek Mason goes and turns around and sets an NFL record for all-purpose yards in a season. But ESPN.com had a proposed trade for Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks to the Steelers. And I clicked it this morning and I thought, let's see. Bill Barnwell writes, another player buried on the depth chart, Treylon Burks has been a victim of unrealistic expectations and bad timing. The Titans essentially drafted him as the replacement for A.J. Brown after trading the star wideout to the Eagles on draft day, setting the bar for Burks as an immediately impactful wide receiver. It hasn't panned out because of injuries to Burks and upheaval at quarterback. 5 different players have thrown him passes over the first 2 seasons. There's always a sense of hesitance from front offices to give up on a first-round pick so quickly, but the regime that drafted Burks is no longer in the building as John Robinson was fired in 2022 before Mike Vrabel was dismissed after last season. New GM Rand Carthon hasn't exactly hidden his feelings about Burks as he has signed 3 veteran wideouts in free agency over the past 12 months, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd. Nick Westbrook-Akine might be ahead of Burks at this point. Tennessee's biggest hindrance in moving Burks is financial. He's owed more than $8 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons, and that's not much for a promising young wide receiver. The idea, he writes here, is that the Titans make a deal with the Steelers. After trading away Deontay Johnson this offseason, Barnwell writes, the Steelers have an opening on the outside. They used a 3rd-round pick on Roman Wilson, who might profile best as a slot receiver, while former Rams wideout Van Jefferson hasn't been productive in much better offenses as a pro. If the Titans, here's the key right here. If the Titans are willing to eat $6 million of what's left on Burks' deal, I could see the logic in Pittsburgh sending a 2026 6th-round pick to Tennessee to give him a fresh start. So what you're saying is that in order to trade Treylon Burks, and again, I don't see much value in Treylon Burks at this point, but in order to do it, I have to eat $6 million, and I get a 6th in next year's draft. No, thank you. I will keep Burks if that's the best offer you've got. A 6th in next year's draft, and I'm eating the money? Look, I'm not stupid. I know Burks doesn't have a ton of trade value on the roster. And he doesn't have a ton of value, period, on the roster because the potential of him as a backup, a specialty player, a gadget kind of guy, or that the new coaching staff could discover that he can be larger than they expected, that he can realize the talent, is not overly valuable. It's a lot of hoping and praying. But I still think it's a lot more valuable than saving $2 million and picking up a sixth. I mean, that's a bag of footballs. And I'm paying the money? Like, if the idea was, hey, you're going to eat $6 of the $8 million that's owed, and you get a third, a top 100 pick, that would be a different discussion. Now, I'd still have to think about it some. I'd probably make it. But, again, a third is a lot different than a sixth. A sixth. So let me say this. While I'm not in on Treylon Burks, I told you guys, going into the offseason, going into free agency, I said I don't consider him on the team. Like, when we're talking about holes, it's like, I mean, I guess Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
I guess you could argue PT is a starter, but I didn't view it that way. I'm like, no, they need 2 tackles because PT's not very good. Oh, Jared, he could play. Okay. That's how I felt about Burks. Like, he's not a starter. He has shown at times that he's got potential, but potential is French for not good enough. So I'm not in on Burks at all. And I don't really buy into, like, the Brian Callahan. He's all in. We're all in. He's going to play inside. He's going to play outside. We're going to get him the ball. We're going to this. His GPS tracker, milesperhour.com. Yeah, bullcrap. They're doing that because they want him to know we believe in you while showing actions that prove otherwise. So while I'm not in on him, and I don't really believe that Callahan's that in on him, I'm not just releasing him. He still has value as a backup. And I'm not trading him for a sixth, which is nothing, and eating the money. If it was a sixth and you took on the $8 million, and so I had $8 million in cash extra that I could spend, which would allow me to acquire a real right tackle, that might be one thing. But, I mean, come on now. Eating the money? Robert in Spring Hill says, I think there's definitely a plan for Treylon Burks. They're going to trade him. Says Robert, do the Steelers have a right tackle who only has 1 year left on the deal that the Titans can trade for Treylon Burks? I don't think so. I think the Steelers are going with 2 rookies. I think they're putting Troy Fautanu at left tackle, and I think they're going with Broderick Jones, who I guess is not a rookie anymore. He'd be a second-year guy, but 2 young tackles. They got Broderick Jones in the first round last year. He'll play right tackle, so they don't have tackles they want to trade to you. So, now, Mo says, can they not use Burks like the Niners use Deebo Samuel? So, let's set aside the fact that Deebo Samuel plays a whole hell of a lot more than Treylon Burks does in terms of availability. But let's also think about it like this. There's one football. So, how many guys do you want with the ball in their hands before you want it in Burks's? Who'd you rather have the ball in the hands of, Burks or Hopkins? Hopkins. Burks or Ridley? Ridley. Burks or Boyd? Boyd. Burks or Spears? Spears. Burks or Pollard? Pollard. So we've just gone through, what is that? 5 guys? I mean, I guess I think I trust Chig more than I trust Burks, though I don't like either guy. But he's down on the pecking order. Whereas with Deebo, you know, if I were to say, okay, who would you rather have the ball in the hands of, George Kittle or Deebo Samuel, you'd be like, it's a good question. George Kittle or Christian McCaffrey? Good question. Deebo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey? Brandon Ayuk. See, that's the thing. All those guys are good. So it's like, well, I'd like the ball in Deebo's hands just as much as I'd like it in Brandon Ayuk's hands. But Burks is so far down the list that it's like, I mean, I don't want Brian Callahan wasting time drawing up plays for Treylon Burks. He needs to be drawing up plays for Calvin Ridley because I just gave Calvin Ridley $50 million guaranteed. One texter says, why is there a narrative that Burks has been treated badly by play calling when we watch him literally drop balls that hit him in the chest last year? I mean, Burks, the problem with Burks is that last year he dropped the football too much and he couldn't stay healthy. And again, you can keep hoping and praying that those will change, or you can be like me and kind of accept reality that this is what it is, and I stand by it being what it is and go from there, which is that I think that Burks is a bust. And, if it works out for him, great. But there's I used to work with somebody who said to somebody, not me, but somebody else that I worked with that was not doing a very good job. He said, look, I'm rooting for you, but I'm betting against you. And that's kind of how I feel about Burks. 615-737-1025. The great Civil War debate at 1025 The Game, I think, has been answered. At least one of the two. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Let's talk Window Nation. I love Window Nation. That's right. Window Nation came into my home for the free in-home estimate, and they shot me straight. They said, you do not need new windows, which I thought was incredibly honest of them, and that told me, hey, this is a company we all can trust. And it is Window Nation's semi-annual sale, which means that right now you can get 50% off all windows along with no interest for 5 years, plus bonus savings when you schedule a consult today. If your windows leak, get foggy, get hot, that's all going to be bad. And you'll be paying very high utility bills, and that's a big deal, and you don't like it, and neither do we. With Window Nation's semi-annual sale, you can replace your windows and save a big deal too. So schedule a no-obligation in-home estimate by calling 866-90NATION now or visiting windownation.com. Again, 50% off all windows along with no interest for 5 years. Bonus. Is there such thing as a difference in body type between a traditional right tackle and a traditional left tackle? And what do you make of that size difference?
Absolutely, there's a difference. And you are right, Jared. J.C. Latham looks like a right tackle a lot more than he looks like a left tackle. Typically, right tackles have to face bigger, stronger, run-stuffing defensive ends. And so they tend to be bigger, stronger, thicker guys to have that running game going to the right side to cover those guys, block those guys. On the left side, left tackles typically go against the elite pass rushers because most quarterbacks are right-handed. They want to take those elite pass rushers off the blind side so the quarterback can't see exactly where he is. And so left tackles have evolved to be more fluid in space, maybe not as powerful, maybe not as thumping, but certainly better in space. And you can look at them and you can see the difference when you see the prototypical tackles.
That was Trevor earlier today, and I play that cut because as we exit today on the program in our final segment, I just want everybody to know that Derek Mason yesterday spent 3 hours yelling and screaming about what does that mean? A right tackle body. What does that mean? What do these people know? What does Jared know? What does Joe know saying he looks like a guard? And this morning, Ian, if we have from the Rex rant, Joe earlier this morning, Joe going crazy. Again, you just heard Trevor, an expert, a former first-round draft choice in the NFL, an offensive line guru. You know Trevor knows the line. The guy that told you from the jump that Dylan Radin sucked. Trevor saying, hey, there is absolutely a difference between a right tackle body and a left tackle body. This was Joe this morning.
I'm not projecting him as a guard. I'm not saying as a guard. I just looked at him the other day and I said, because he's so thick and squatty that he just looks like one. I understand he's playing left tackle. Stop yelling at me. And stop lumping me in with Jared. If Jared's saying he looks like a right tackle, that doesn't even make any sense.
That's what he said. I saw J.C. Latham on the field on Friday with my own two eyes. He looks like a right tackle, was his tweet last night.
I don't understand what that means. Do you understand what that means?
I guess because he's bigger. Like, what's he listed at? Is he listed at like 330, 340?
Yeah, he's basically 6'6", 342.
I guess that's why, because he's big.
Yeah. I think you could go around the NFL right now and you could find right tackles who, again, quote unquote, look like tackles, which is a little bit leaner.
Okay. So I would just like this for it to be noted. When anybody on this station says, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Play the Trevor cut. He's an expert. I'm sure tomorrow Paul will be on the morning show. He doesn't know, right tackle. He doesn't. Play the Trevor cut. Trevor knows. That's it for us. We're out of here. ESPN Radio's coming up next.